I just want to say shout out to Kemo Bear for creating this video. If you want to see this video for yourself, the link is going to be in the description. So there's a video on YouTube, and it's basically explaining how Dragon Ball GT understood Dragon Ball, but Super didn't. Now, me personally, I am not the biggest fan of GT. I really don't like it at all. And I think Super isn't the best written. I think it's really really bad at times, but I'm gonna be honest with you, I think Super is like way better than GT. So I'm gonna actually watch this video and I'm kind of give my thoughts about his opinion on how GT may have done it slightly better than Super. So we'll find out.
Now I'm gonna be honest, I think Dragon Ball Super and Dragon Ball GT are both pretty bad. As
they don't stand up.
Or sequels of
Neither
Dragon
do.
Ball, they do not hold up. Not even close. But with that being said, I still have infinitely more respect and enjoyment for Dragon Ball GT. And the reason for that is because GT actually seems like it has some sort of understanding of the franchise and respects the different rules and story directions that came before it. It feels like it actually could have been written by Toriyama. If Toriyama was a terrible writer, but still, as much as I don't really
Toriyama had
GT,
slightly a hand in Super.
It doesn't ruin certain characters or retcon important plot details and mechanics every other episode. One of the biggest instances of Super not understanding Dragon Ball, I think, is with its transformations. Dragon Ball G.
Well, before you get into the transformations, he actually kind of talked about retcons, and my whole thing with GT, it really does feel like GT did not. It seemed like GT didn't really think that it was going to be canon in the main story. Like, if anything past GT was going to happen, like just Dragon Ball in general, they kind of almost knew that GT was not going to ever be included in this. So to me, I feel like GT made a lot of safe decisions. I feel like GT never really tried to change characters or retcon anything, or really try to change something that could affect the future of Dragon Ball as a whole. So for me, I really do feel as though that's the reason why you don't really get any type of weird retcons or any type of weird character decisions in GT. I feel like GT was really safe in a lot of their decisions compared to Super, because they knew Super was going to be something that was going to carry on Dragon Ball from here on out. So I really feel as though that's where you can get into retcons, and he's actually about to get into transformations. So I actually want to hear what he has to say about this one.
GT introduces one new transformation in the whole show, and it's Super Saiyan 4, one of the best transformations in the franchise. Paying homage to Goku and the Saiyan's origin, it's also just a really smart solution for the next Super Saiyan design. Because up to this point, the hair of the Super Saiyans had gotten longer and longer with each transformation, to the point where if Super Saiyan 4 would have had even longer hair than 3 did, it would just look kind of ridiculous. But GT solves this in a perfect way.
I don't really know
Dragon Ball Super, on the other hand, has Super Saiyan 1 but blue. There is zero originality or innovation with any of the transformations in Super, and it's just so goddamn many of them. We have base form Goku but with red hair, Super Saiyan but with blue hair, Super Saiyan but pink, Frieza except he's yellow, Frieza except he's black, Super Saiyan Blue but slightly lighter blue, Broly but female, Super Saiyan Trunks but really angry, Super Saiyan God but white. I can at least give a lot of props to
Okay, because he's actually about to get into Ultra Instinct. To me, I feel as though in the beginning of Super, yes, it just was the transformations. Oh, Goku base hair is a different color. Goku base hair is now red. Goku base hair is now white. Super Saiyan is just blue now. I really do feel as though in the later half of Super, especially in the manga as well, they learned to have the transformations mean more than just, hey, it's just a different hair color. It actually is a different mindset as well when it comes to these lots of transformations. Because again, he's going to talk about Ultra Instinct, for instance. Whereas, again, it's just Goku with white hair. But the mindset Goku has to be in, and this is something that I wouldn't say only Goku can attain, but it's something that Goku can easily attain versus others, especially when it comes to Ultra Ego Vegeta. For instance, Vegeta has to get into a certain mindset, and he has to kind of harken back into a certain mindset to keep that form going and to really get the full benefit of that form. So for me, yes, a lot of these transformations early on in Super was just different hair dye, but I like that later on, these transformations meant a lot more than just a power. It also comes with a different mindset that a lot of these characters really have to have. So yes, in the beginning, you could say that Super Saiyan 4 was just more so like, Saiyan harking back in the Saiyan's purest form. But I really do kind of like how Super is handling a lot of these later transformations, like Ultra Instinct, we have Vegeta with his Ultra Ego. I kind of like how they make these people have unique forms, but it's not too unique to the point where nobody else can get these. It's just that with these characters, like Goku can easily get Ultra Instinct versus Ultra Ego because Goku is a martial artist at the end of the day. He can easily turn his brain off and let his body move on its own, versus with Vegeta was a hardcore Saiyan back then. So now Ultra Ego is easier for Vegeta to attain. So
Ultra Instinct for being very unique in its concept, but man, there is like 10 new transformations in Super at least versus GT's 1, unless you want to count like Golden Great Ape and stuff. And what I really hate is when people say, oh, but Dragon Ball has always been about cool new transformations and fighting, especially because their biggest argument
when we only really got like
Super Saiyan
one transformation per saga.
Completely misses the point of what Super Saiyan 3 was supposed
so
to
I really
be,
want to say
Goku
multiple
turning
transformations
Super
we ever
Saiyan
seen
3
in the saga.
Supposed to be like the previous 2 Super Saiyan transformation moments. It's supposed to have the opposite effect. In the 2 arcs that came before, the only way to save the day was a new Super Saiyan transformation. That was their only option. But in this arc, Goku busts out a new Super Saiyan transformation almost at the beginning of the arc, and his hair is like 4 times longer than before, but it's still not enough to beat the villain. It's supposed to show that what saved them the last 2 times won't save them this time, and they're going to have to find a different solution. Now, it's clear that Toriyama changed his mind a few times about what that solution was going to be, but we can for sure say it wasn't a new transformation. What I think the original...
And actually, I kind of want to speak on that for a moment. If I had to actually kind of... If I had to kind of like figure out what Toriyama was trying to go with when it comes to like the fusions and stuff like that, I think these are just quirky designs that Toriyama just wanted to put out. I don't think that Gotenks was ever supposed to defeat the main villain. I don't think Ultimate Gohan was supposed to defeat the main villain. I don't even think Vegito was supposed to be the main solution for Buu. And so like for me, I guess you could say like in some weird way that yes, you could say that some of these moments could have ended there. Like again, Gotenks could have killed Buu, but he didn't. Ultimate Gohan could have defeated Super Buu, but he didn't. Vegito could have finished off, but he didn't. So I really do feel as though sometimes it's one of those situations. I just feel like Toriyama, he just wanted to just throw ideas out there. Some kind of, really kind of hurt the fandom in some ways, but it is what it is.
The solution was going to be was the younger generation. I think it's clear that the theme of the Buu arc was going to be to trust the future generation, considering the ending of the Cell arc, the beginning of the Buu arc, and the lack of Goku's presence, and the focus on Goten and Trunks. So for Dragon Ball Super to
which we do know he kind of backtracked on, sadly.
Characters, especially the next generation, focused almost entirely on Goku and Vegeta, and introduced like a million transformations, I think is an incredibly stupid direction to go. The worst part, I think, is Goten and Trunks. They had a huge role in the Buu arc, but get nothing, and I mean nothing, to do in Super, like at all. I don't want to talk about the movies or the manga in this video, but that scene at the end of the superhero movie made me actually like real life mad. It genuinely felt like the writers wanted to make me angry. Now compare...
Oh, when it comes to, because you can say that was just a gag moment for the superhero movie, but I can really understand how people were kind of really upset with that one, and hopefully in the manga and later on we can get some more of these characters, because again, you can kind of feel as though with superhero they didn't have anything for them to do, honestly. You can even say like at a certain point they should have been in Tournament Power in some weird way, because it would have gave them more screen time, would have given them more than something to do, because you could probably say in the future Trunks saga, maybe Kid Trunks kind of got a little bit more screen time when it was trying to comfort future Trunks, but at the same time, yeah, the kids, they didn't really have a lot to do, but I still...
Compare this to GT, where the 3 main characters are Pan, Trunks, and Kid.
I don't know if I still kind of prefer him over this trio, though.
They actually tried to incorporate the younger generation. Now, despite them getting a lot of screen time, does Trunks and Pan get any character development or do anything significant in the story? No,
No.
not really. But
No,
again, I
no,
don't
no.
think either of these shows are
God.
good. But man, do decisions like
And
these
I
make
take,
me
bro.
respect GT so much more.
I'll take
Goten
Goten
is
and Trunks
also way
over
more
Pain any day of the
involved
week.
in Super, and they actually give him a really cool personality. I love how they make him distinct from Goku and Gohan, and that all three of them get completely different personalities. He even gets a fight with the main villain of the arc, and he's just a really entertaining character to follow in general, even if he's not doing anything important, which is something I can say about a lot of the returning cast, to be honest, because they're the same characters we know from C, which is something I definitely can't say about Super, because Goku and the others feel like they've been all replaced with AI. The amount of times they act out of character or just do things that are so out of line with what we know about the characters before is very concerning. Lately, I've been seeing a lot of people say that Goku wasn't that stupid in Super, and people are over exaggerating, and that Goku has always been kind of silly, and I have no idea how people can say this with a straight face, because Goku is an absolute fucking doofus in Dragon Ball Super. This is one of the biggest examples to me of the Super.
And I think one of my major criticisms is Goku's character, because it seemed like the writers chose comedic over anything else. It's like, oh, we need to make things funny and exciting and stuff like that. But it's like, dude, I feel as though you can find a balance. You don't always need to have Goku just forget the most important things or just say or do anything that's just super comedic just for comedic effect. I feel as though they kind of really dropped the ball with that one, because again, and I don't understand why Goku had to be the one to be that character too. I feel as though there's so many characters that you can get comedic effect from. I don't understand why they always had to make it Goku. And just when it comes to just the most randomest things too, it's like you almost feel like sometimes Goku is more serious in other episodes and just more goofy in other episodes. Like it's so inconsistent with his character writing. And I feel that that's just something you always get when you just have multiple people just overseeing things, and how this episode we want to make Goku a little bit more serious, and this episode we want to make him more goofy. And it's like it felt really bad. I feel like you generally don't know which Goku you're gonna get per episode, and it's really just wonky.
Writers having a really surface level understanding of Dragon Ball. It's like they look at Dragon Ball and are like, okay, Goku is strong and stupid, and like, yeah, that's true, but there's a lot of different levels.
It's so
of
easy to
stupid,
balance
and
it too.
There's a big difference between being a little silly and like having terminal brain damage. Like, see, Goku would never forget the seal for the Mafu Buck. Could you imagine if in the Saiyan saga, when he went to save the rest of the Seed Fighters from Nappa and Vegeta, that he like forgot the Sensu beans? That would never happen, and that's not nearly as important as the thing they were going to use to defeat the main villain in the first place, or how he doesn't.
Hey, he's about to talk about how Goku forgets how babies are made. And I also want to speak on how they handled him in GT, when it's like, okay, we made him a kid, so we can make Goku a little bit more goofier than normal because he's a kid now. And to me, it's like, fine, you can have Goku be a little bit more silly, a little playful because he's a kid. Fine. Even though I found it weird that you had to make him a kid just to get a lot of playfulness out. I really do feel as though you could have easily got that when he was an adult. But for one reason, it's like, hey, since he's a kid now, we can have a little bit more fun with Goku as a character. So I just kind of feel like that was always weird to me as well. Like, you couldn't have Goku be an adult and still got a lot of that playfulness and a lot of that feel for adventure off. I don't know why you have to make him into a kid just because you want to harken back to OG Dragon Ball so damn much.
Understand that Bulma is pregnant, even though her stomach is way bigger and everyone around him makes it pretty damn obvious. Oh, and also the fact that he literally has 2 children himself, plus a grandchild. This is like something I'd expect from Kid Goku, because Kid Goku had lived on a mountain for like his whole life, not seeing any humans, so he was ignorant to a lot of things in the world. But this is like 50-year-old Goku. Once again, Goku is not that dumb. He is capable of putting 2 and 2 together, and there are many examples of that in C. Like when he first meets future Trunks, and Trunks tells him that his mom made the time machine and knows who Goku is. Instantly after Trunks says that, Goku realizes that Bulma is Trunks' mom. At least in GT, Goku acts like Goku. He can be a bit silly there too,
Alright,
but
like I was
not
saying
to
before,
the point where he's ever as dumb as in Super. Vegeta is also someone who is always in character in GT. every line of dialogue he has is accurate to Vegeta from Steve. And his final talk with Pan at the end is beautiful and a million times better than anything he says in Super, because in Super, he doesn't even want to fuse. Both before fusing into Vegito and Gogeta, he doesn't want to do it at first. But why? Why wouldn't he want to fuse? He should have overcome this by now. He's done the fusion before. He should be used to it, especially after all the other things he's done in Super itself. In GT, Vegeta is the one who brings up the idea.
Okay, because he's about to bring up how Vegeta and GT, he offered the fusion, like he was the first one to bring up the fusion. I will say this. Even he did bring up that yes, they did fuse before, so why is Vegeta hesitant to fuse again? Don't forget, when versus Kid Buu, Vegeta was like, no, I am not fusing again with you. Now, again, GT is what, I think it's like 15 years later, whereas Super is only like 4. So it's like, that mindset from Vegeta really it wasn't that much time that's changed. Because again, Vegeta made it quite clear versus Kid Buu, I'm not fusing with you again. I'd rather die than to fuse with you again. So again, so when it comes to like, oh, Vegeta already fused, why is he hesitant to fuse again? Like, no, he turned it down. He turned it down again before. So Vegeta being hesitant to fuse again, it's not really nothing too out of character. Again, I know a lot of people kind of feel as though Vegeta character kind of backtracked a bit versus the "you are number one" thing. But to me, it's like, I just think it's always still been a rivalry there. We're even seeing it now in later episodes of Daima as well.
Of fusion in the first place. Not only that, but he says it like it's a given that they're going to fuse, because I mean, yeah, it should be. Every character from Super is a shell of their actual self, and when I think about those versions of the characters, I just remember everything about them that I hate. And some characters, I swear Super straight up goes out of their way to disrespect. They must have a personal vendetta against Majin Buu, because what they did to him was actually insane.
I don't disagree with that.
He was going to join the Universe 6 tournament, but he fell asleep.
See, now that's some bullshit.
Then he has an off-screen training arc where he gets skinny and is supposed to join the Tournament of Power, but once again, he falls asleep. This was not funny the first time.
Man, that pissed people off.
It is still not funny the second time. And this is just the worst excuse they could pull out, because it was established in the Buu arc that he only sleeps for 5 seconds. Why even make us think that he's going to be a part of the story in the first place? Like, I actually don't understand. Now compare that to GT, where admittedly he doesn't really do much here either, but what he does get is a million times better. When he sees Uben,
which I always found kind of weird.
Goodbyes to Mr. Satan.
Look, I get that they like the moment from Buu, but I really need to go back and really figure out what made Buu just switch like that and go, you know what? I need to fuse with this guy. I need to go back and watch what made him just immediately just go, you know what? I'm gonna fuse. Like, it felt weird.
His one friend in the whole world, and becomes a part of Buu. This is not only a better moment than whatever he got in Super, but a really good and touching moment in itself. Seeing Majin Buu do such a big act of selflessness is really rewarding and a really good full circle moment. And this moment was possible because of Buu and Oob, two characters that either weren't in Super at all or just slept the entire time. Why couldn't Buu have been replaced with Tien? He didn't do jack shit in the tournament. Why was he even there? He shows up a bunch in Super just to do nothing. Now granted, his screen time in GT is not exactly much, but at least that's in keeping with the trajectory of his character up until that point. Like, he didn't even show up in the Buu arc tournament at all. He just stayed home with Chiaotzu. And I love Tien. I think he's an incredible character in OG Dragon Ball, so I wish he didn't have to fade into the background of the story. But again, my point is that at least GT actually recognizes that fact. But one of the worst ones is Gohan. Gohan is a fan favorite character in the Cell and Buu arc.
I wonder what he's gonna say about Gohan.
I've never heard someone say Gohan is their favorite Dragon Ball Super character. Again, I really don't want to talk about superhero and the movies in this video, because I feel like that's a whole different video for another day. But in the main anime, he gets disrespected time and time again, and it's clear that whoever was writing the show had absolutely no idea what to do with him. Right off the bat, we get one of the worst moments in all of Dragon Ball, where they try to recreate Piccolo's sacrifice for Gohan in the most tasteless, boneless, lazy ass way that does not contain any of the quality.
Even though That was from the god-awful anime adaptation of that. I don't hope the two movie anime adaptations against Super, but just
that made the original moment so good in the first place. This moment actually gave me secondhand embarrassment from Gohan the first time I watched it. He then proceeds to not do anything at all for the next 2 arcs, then he trains for a day and is all of a sudden fighting Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Goku. Great. He doesn't do anything of note during the tournament at all, aside from being a shell of his former self, and that's it for Gohan and Dragon Ball Super. I like the way he...
Okay. I kind of have to give Gohan a little bit more credit in that. Because you can tell early on they tried to make Gohan the person with humanity when Gohan was kind of conflicted on I had a hand in getting a universe erased. And they tried to make Gohan the humane character, even though you can probably say they kind of teased that with Goku in the beginning when the first universe got erased, but then they just say, Goku don't care. He's gonna continue to win. But I will say Gohan did have some moments in the Tournament of Power. I think he definitely had a lot more than a lot of characters in the Tournament of Power, for sure. Like for instance, the team up with him and Piccolo was pretty decent, and the fight with him and Frieza versus Dispo. And I'm not mad at Gohan sacrificing himself to get rid of Dispo, because Gohan did see Dispo as a legit threat in a Tournament of Power, like an actual decent opponent that could actually be an issue. So I'm never really mad at Gohan's sacrifice for getting Dispo out of here. So I'm just gonna give Gohan just a little bit more credit. He had his moments in the Tournament of Power.
He prioritizes his...
I personally do. I really wanted the manga version of that though, but it's all right.
Family and career like he does in GT as well, but they can't even really commit to that fully. It's like they were constantly unsure of whether or not they wanted him to be a fighter or not. And look, does Gohan get anything to do in GT? No, but at least he acts and behaves just like I expect Gohan to act at this point, and no damage is done to his character. And for the person who gets disrespected the worst, we have Future Trunks.
My boy!
What did they do to you? Future Trunks is easily one of my favorite Dragon Ball characters. He just has so much sauce, bro. But sometimes I kind of feel like he could have had just a bit of a bigger role in the Cell Saga. Like, just a little bit. Mainly towards the end. Especially considering that's the only arc he's in. So, for him to return to the story is something I'd be completely...
I'm really trying to think of, like, what more could have Trunks have done in the Cell portion of the arc. I mean, again, like, outside of... I mean, when Cell goes perfect, I mean, that's just it. It's GG. Like, there's no... I can't really say he could have done more, honestly. I think he's done... I personally don't think he could have done more in the Cell version of the arc, but I mean, that's just my opinion.
I cannot look at him the same way after what I witnessed in Dragon Ball Super. They turned this man into a complete bitch. He does not have nearly the same level of charisma or wit, and honestly just feels like a completely different person. The reason he returned to the past and sea was to save our timeline, but also get trained by people like Goku and Vegeta, so he himself could go back to his own timeline and beat the androids. And that's exactly what he did. He didn't need anyone else's help. He could do it himself, but here he's basically solely relying on Goku and Vegeta to beat the bad guy for him. He trains with Vegeta for like 10 minutes and that's it. He feels so undetermined, so unmotivated, so boring. The only thing I like about Trunks in this arc is when they reveal how he dealt with the Buu arc, by just working with Kaioshin and not letting Buu get revived at all. That is exactly how Trunks would handle this situation, and is one of the few moments it actually seemed like the writers understood a character. But unfortunately, that's the only time they understand Trunks, because man, does it just get worse and worse for my man. I have no idea why he feels the need to always argue and debate against Zamasu and Goku Black. 70% of his dialogue in this arc is just, you're wrong, Zamasu, mortals are actually awesome, which is completely different to how he acted in C, which was a lot more...
If they set that android free, it will be the end of all of us! No!
Keep in mind, the villains this time around just killed his mom. You'd think he wouldn't be trying to reason with them at all, especially because it turns out that they can't be reasoned with at all. He then gets...
Okay. We're gonna get to this form in a second. When it comes to Trunks and the Goku Black arc, for me, I'm not mad that Trunks relied on Goku and Vegeta, because it was clear from the very beginning when he fought Goku Black that he was not powerful enough. There was nothing he could do. And you can even say, well, he should have done the same thing he did with androids, which was leave, train, and then come back. Well, that part didn't necessarily happen, because we know Goku Black tried to enter that timeline as well. And he did. He was there for a second. But for me, it was one of those situations to where I know time was of the essence. So for me, him relying on Goku and Vegeta, especially seeing their new forms, I'm not mad at Trunks having to rely on them. And plus, I'm gonna be 100% honest with you, I think even though the Goku Black arc does have its moments where it's kind of really not great, like the writing is almost like piss poor in certain reasons, but for me, I feel as though Trunks did what he could. Especially when it comes to, okay, what I can do, I can learn the Muffaba to seal Zamasu. I can't hold off Immortal Zamasu, because Immortal Zamasu is the only one that he can actually fight. So for me, when it comes to a lot of things that Trunks has done in the Goku Black arc, to me, I'm not mad at some of the decisions he's made, because I feel as though sometimes he did what he could. And honestly, because again, it's like, what more could Trunks done versus Goku Black himself? There's really nothing. Like, he literally, in base form, he was getting his ass kicked. So like, for me, it was one of those situations to where I'm not mad that Trunks relied so heavily on Goku and Vegeta during this arc. I'm not mad at that.
Super Saiyan Rage. Like, come on, this is just dumb. Why do characters get transformations that are unique to them? It always feels so cheap and so unearned. And this one is just so dumb. Like, he got so angry he unlocked a new transformation called Super Saiyan Rage. Yeah, alright, buddy. It's like they were trying to do the "there's a beast inside me" meme. Oh wait, the sword spirit bomb thing.
Okay, well, just real quick. I can understand how some people, this actually is really interesting. This is a hot take, actually. People actually really do like the fact that a lot of characters are getting unique transformations. My only issue with this, especially when it comes to everybody getting unique transformations, is a simple fact that they're not explained. So for me, you can say, okay, well, Trunks got Super Saiyan Rage. Why didn't Gohan get Super Saiyan Rage during the superhero? Can Trunks get Beast transformation? Is that a thing? So for me, I'm kind of in the camp of, I don't mind characters getting unique transformations just for them. It does feel better like that sometimes. But when you don't explain these things, we don't explain what these forms are or how these characters attain this form, to me, that's where I'm just like, you know what? I like that characters are getting unique transformations just for them. But if you're not going to explain these transformations, to me, that's where I'm sorry. I'm not a huge fan of it sometimes.
Obviously sucks too, but the absolute worst part, and the thing that really makes me not able to look at future Trunks the same way as I used to, is the ending of this arc. Not only Trunks'
and it was the worst thing in the world.
The entire universe gets erased by Senno. The whole fucking universe.
Super felt so kiddish at times, but then we literally got the darkest ending of any arc.
Now, regardless of how much of a cop-out this ending is, can we talk about why Trunks is just fine with this? Like, he does not react to it at all, even though everyone he had been fighting to protect the whole arc, including these two,
I'll be honest with you, I don't really think there's nothing more he could have done.
Not only dead, but erased. They cannot even go to the afterlife. Why does he never show a reaction to this? And worst of all, instead of, I don't know, just living with a gang in their timeline, they decide to live in a version of their timeline without Zamasu, but have to live with alternate versions of themselves, and they're fine with it. They think this is okay. They all act like this is normal. who greenlit this? Who thought this was a good idea? What sort of message am I supposed
Imagine
to
we'd
take
have
away
kept
from this?
Trunks
Like,
in our
what the
timeline. Oh
actual
my
fuck?
god.
But what really sucks is that this completely invalidates Trunks' journey in C. Trunks had spent his whole life fighting the androids and living under their terror. He finally managed to beat them and save his timeline, which was a really rewarding moment, and his journey and arc came to a close. But it turns out none of that fucking mattered, because 8 years later they're all just gonna die anyway, and not just his planet, the whole universe. I wish this arc did not exist at all, because the amount of damage it does is insane. You know what future Trunks
I do got a hot take though. I do think the Goku Black arc is the best arc in Super.
does in GT? Nothing. He's not even in it, and I much prefer that to whatever the hell they gave us in Super. And what really sucks is that this is the last time we will ever see future Trunks again. I very highly doubt that they will ever put him back
I do
into
think
Dragon Ball in the future.
we
So
might
this
see
was
Trunks
our
again.
one chance,
I don't know
and
where.
they did
I don't know when.
I don't even know what they did.
But
This
they
arc
like
also
their
does
fan
something
service.
that the show does over and over again.
Especially if
That
you're watching
sucks
Daima.
just as
They
much
like their
every
fan
time,
service.
which is how they will
So-
retcon or just straight up forget certain rules or lore or mechanics. The Potara one is, I think, the biggest example of this in the Goku Black arc. I don't understand why people even try to defend this, because it's so dumb. It's made very clear that the Potara fusion is permanent in C, but for some reason they retconned it so that there's a timer on it. The explanation they give is that when Goku and Vegeta defused back in the Buu arc, it was because of the timer instead of the fact that Vegeta let his barrier down. And this is just such a dumb reason, because you mean to tell me that they just happened to defuse at the exact moment that Vegeta let down his barrier? And the old Kai implies that he has seen mortals fuse before, meaning he would have seen firsthand if it was permanent or not, which is exactly what he tells Goku that it is. But apparently it's not permanent, because the writers wanted them to defuse, even though they literally have a
Well, no, the real reason is they want Vegito to constantly keep coming back, and they needed a reason for Vegito to constantly keep coming back. That's all it is. He's a moneymaker.
fusion dance that they can use that has the exact same time limit. Like, what's the point? And the worst part is that this makes it so that there is
Vegeta
no
was not going to
difference
learn the fusion
between
dance
Potara earrings and
mid
fusion
Mert
dance.
Zamasu
Like, they
fight, so
function in the
I'm not mad at
exact same
that.
way now. So what's the point in having two ways to fuse? This is the type of shit that Super pulls on a
Oh,
consistent
actually, no, there's
basis.
3 ways to
Another
fuse.
example is the way Dende rebuilds Ruma Spirit in time, but just gets rid of the time limit. Now, it technically makes sense that he's able to do this, sure, but it feels really cheap, and you gotta wonder why the hell the 48-hour rule was implemented in the first place, if Dende was able to just remove it. Could Kami or Dende have removed the time limit back when they were training for Cell? Because that sure would have been useful. See what I mean? It's like they don't think before they do these retcons. There's also Vegeta blowing up the time chamber from the inside, even though that just doesn't make any sense at all. Like, these things make me wonder if they've even read or watched Dragon Ball more than once. And it's frustrating because they will do these retcons and new rules with the highest amount of confidence and still get it so wrong. Like the way they explain that Shin's life is linked to Beerus.
That was
This is
always
just
weird. That was
wrong
always a
for
weird one for
so
me, too.
many reasons. Like, why was Shin so willing to give up his life to Goku with no second thought? Why did he even put his life on the line at all? Couldn't he just ask Beerus to take care of it? Even if Beerus didn't really care about Majin Buu like that, I'm sure that he'd care about it if his own life was on the line. And because I know someone is gonna comment it, there is actually a reason as to why Beerus didn't help, and it's because he was asleep. And also, there used to be 5 Kaioshin. Why was Beerus' life specifically linked to Shin? What about old Kai? Was his life linked to a god of destruction? And what about when Shin fused with Kibito? How
You can
were
just
they
tell that
so
there's
sure
just things
that
like,
that
hey,
would
we're gonna
be
make this a
weird?
thing.
Which, by the way,
But what about
Shin and
this?
Kibito decided to just defuse again, because why did
yeah.
any decisions
And just
made in the
don't
original
care.
series? And you know,
We're not
I really
explaining that.
don't
Who
care
cares?
too much about these things individually, but it's the fact that it happens again and again and again. Like, why the hell is Mai the same age as Trunks when she's supposed to look like what she does in GT? I know they explain that in the manga, but it does not happen in the anime at all. And like I said, I don't really want to talk about the manga in this video, especially because of how different the two are. Also, the explanation just sucks anyway, and the whole thing is just really weird. I can go on and on about this. I don't even want to go into how badly they feel
something else people just like,
because that'll take all day.
Oh yeah, we're just gonna ignore that.
Maybe have a few issues like this. So does the original story, to be honest, but like not even close to the level of Super. Characters don't just 5,000x their strength after 1 day of training, and they actually use some mechanics in cool ways that.
Super's power scaling is the worst I've ever seen. Period. There's times where it's like, oh, Goku's clearly holding back while in blue. Why do you need to go blue, period? You don't. There's other forms, Goku. You don't need to hold back in blue. Just go Super Saiyan. Just go Super Saiyan 2. It confuses the audience so much that now people think that, oh, this character is blue level. It's like, no, that's not the case. Goku just holding back. But people don't care. It's like, oh, they see Goku blue, they see person fighting Goku blue, they must be blue level. It's like, whatever, man.
Makes sense.
You got it.
That Super doesn't really use at all. Like the Great Ape, Goku's tail, the way Goku uses his Kamehameha to launch himself, Majin Buu's absorption ability, the water from the Garlic Arc. But most importantly, it doesn't go out of its way to break or retcon pre-established rules every other episode. Another way I think it's clear where GT really tried to honor what came before it is with its ideas themselves, specifically with its arcs. The first arc starts with a classic Hunt for the Dragon Balls, where they really try to bring back those OG Dragon Ball vibes, especially by making Goku a kid again. We haven't had an arc of just hunting the Dragon Balls since OG.
Yeah, but the problem about that is, if anybody were to ever go back and rewatch GT, they know that this is probably going to be the worst slog of their life. So to me, it's like, I can understand that, yes, they wanted to harken back to the OG feeling of Dragon Ball or hunt down Dragon Balls, but you can ask any GT fan or anybody who just loves the whole series in general, that's probably one of the worst times. If you're gonna rewatch GT, that's gonna be, you're probably gonna have the worst time with that Pacific arc. It's just like, it's gonna be, oh, it's just such a slog.
To the point where the Dragon Balls just kind of slowly turned into this convenient plot device that they just use whenever they need it. So getting a whole arc to hunt them is a really good idea, especially the way they're scattered throughout the whole universe. Now, whether or not they pulled off that idea well is... Anyway, next up we have the Baby arc. And this one is really cool too, showing the remnants of a race that the Saiyans wiped out, wanting revenge on them, but ending up being just as bad as the Saiyans is pretty dope, especially so because it's a race we've actually seen before. And the next arc...
Okay, since he's skipping Super 17, which I will be skipping Super 17, I have no opinions on Super 17. I'm hoping Super 17, I never have to hear that name ever again. When it comes to the Baby arc, for me, I've never been a fan of revenge tales where it's, hey, I have beef with these people, but I'm going to punish you even though you have nothing to do with it. I'm punishing you for the sins of your father. I've never really been a fan of those type of revenge plots. So for me, I've never been the hugest fan of Baby, because it's one of the situations like, dude, you're hurting me and my family. We have nothing to do with your suffering. We weren't even alive. Some of us weren't even alive for that. But so it's like one of those situations to where, like, it's weird because I feel as though the Goku Black thing is also similar, because again, you can, the parallels of, oh, Baby took over Vegeta's body and Zamasu took over Goku's body. So you can kind of like see like where it's kind of like similar in some aspects when it comes to the arcs and them wanting revenge. But for me, it's like, it just depends on which one do you prefer. Now, obviously, Baby's reason for revenge is a lot more justified than Zamasu's reason for, oh, these mortals are just savages, they need to be erased, and how dare I freaking get embarrassed by a mortal. It's like, so you could say Baby's revenge plot is more justified, but for me, both to me just really, it's just really just not that strong for me. I think both reasons are a little weak.
Yeah, maybe we should just skip this.
Yes,
one.
let's.
But,
Yeah, well, let's do
I
that.
can at least say that not even in my wildest dreams could I think of what happens in this arc, because it is.
That's fine. Nobody does.
Crazy. And honestly, the idea of hell opening up and being connected to the world of the living, with all the villains they've defeated coming back to fight them, is a really good idea. I mean, hell is a pretty unexplored area of Dragon Ball, so it's kind of a full circle moment. Whether or not these ideas were executed.
And plus, don't forget, we kind of already seen this with Fusion Reborn. Hell opens up, all the villains from previous movies and arcs come back. Yeah, I think it's just because we've already seen this already. I think that's one of the reasons why Super 17 just doesn't really stick that much, is because a lot of things we've already seen. It's not really that grand, to be honest.
Well, is no, it's not even debatable. This shit fucking sucked mega
Fuck
ass. And then
sucks.
the last arc, I think, has a genius idea, making the overuse and reliance of the Dragon Balls a consequence. Each wish in Dragon Ball gets manifested into a dragon that they need to defeat. This arc is all about the Dragon Balls, which is perfect.
I'm sorry for pausing again, but the concept was dope. The execution, not so much. I really do enjoy the fact that they said, hey, you overuse Dragon Ball, so now they're damn near fighting back. But to me, it doesn't get interesting until you get to the last 3 dragons. So it's like, to me, it's like the concept on paper is really good. It's really good. Like, it's probably one of, like, when you look at arcs on a piece of paper and what the setting of the arcs are, that honestly might be one of the best. But to me, it's like, bro, but the execution was just so bad. A lot of those earlier dragons were just so bad. It was so bad.
Because this is the ending to Dragon Ball. I like that the Dragon Balls are such a big part of GT, because they should be. Super had the Super Dragon Balls, I suppose, but they were always kind of a thing in the background. That wasn't like a huge motivator. And its ideas for the arcs are so boring and unoriginal. Battle of Gods is the only one I can't say this about, as it feels fresh enough. But the next arc is literally just, what if Frieza came back? Again, then we have a tournament arc, and then we have evil Goku, and what if Future Trunks came back? And lastly, we have another tournament arc. And I don't at all hold anything against Super for doing tournament arc.
Okay. Since he pointed out the arcs, yes, Battle of Gods does feel the most. It feels the most of a breath of fresh air. Now, Resurrection F, I think when you go back and watch that movie, it does not hold up that well. But here's the thing. If it wasn't for Resurrection F, we wouldn't have gotten Frieza in the Tournament of Power. And people really did enjoy Frieza in the Tournament of Power. Now, yes, Frieza is also a villain in the manga currently. And again, people say, well, that's not original. Why are we going back to older villains being relevant again? To me, I'm not mad at that part. And not people thinking that. But then we have the Universe 6 versus Universe 7. For me personally, I think this arc was not the most entertaining, especially in the beginning. Now, obviously, when you get to Vegeta versus Kaba and stuff like that, I think that's where stuff get really heated. That's when stuff really start getting good, especially with Goku versus Hit. That fight is really good. But for me, I like the arc because of the world building aspect of it, of us learning that we have a trained universe. So for me, yes, the arc itself is not very entertaining, majority of it, but the world building aspect of it, I enjoy so much. Now, when it comes to the Goku Black arc, to me, again, it's just one of those situations to where it depends on how you feel about Goku Black as a villain, which I think Goku Black is a fantastic villain. I don't think until he merges, I've never really had an issue with Goku Black being a villain until he merges. Then that's when things kind of get a little wonky. But then now we go into Universe Survival Saga, and to me, again, I'm not mad at the world building aspect of things. We got a look at the different universes. So again, for the world building, from a world building perspective, I enjoy a lot of these arcs for the world building aspect of things way more than I did in GT.
especially because they're a big part of Dragon Ball, and I can appreciate the last one being a battle royale as it switches up the format, but it doesn't change how unoriginal it is. And keep in mind that Super is twice as long as GT. I also wanted to talk about the character designs for a minute because I really do not like Super's character designs. Now, obviously there were some key differences between the two shows when it came to the designs, as they take place at completely different times in the story. Super takes place 4 years after the Blue Arc, whereas GT is 15 years afterwards. So there's about a 10-year time difference between the two. Since Super is right between the Blue Arc and the end of C, it had to come up with designs that made sense to be between those two time periods. Whereas GT only really needed to take into account the end of the C designs, as GT takes place 5 years after that. And I think the two biggest designs Super really fumbles on are Goku and Vegeta themselves. For Goku, I think they just took a very lazy route, giving him this.
I like the Resurrection F designs.
So
that maybe people don't. I really do actually like the Resurrection F designs actually.
It's just so bland. And halfway through the show, he just goes back to his C outfit. It's like they knew it looked terrible, but didn't have the balls to try another new design, so they just went back to the safe option. In comparison, I really like GT Goku's outfit. It feels like a natural progression of his end of C outfit, and I like how they managed to keep the blue and orange colors, but in a different way than his
I really like his GT
design is
even though he's a kid for majority of it.
What I really hate is Vegeta's super design, because they gave him the battle armor. Why in the actual fuck does Vegeta still have this
Buu Saga Vegeta design?
Garbage battle armor. We were done with this shit back in the Cell Saga. This is the last panel he should have ever worn it. So why does he go through the entirety of Super wearing it? Just like Goku, he gets this off-brand ass armor.
I like it, man. I like it.
Change back to his original.
I like
Goku,
it.
This is not just lazy, it's just wrong in my opinion. I think Vegeta's GT design is perfect, at least in terms of the direction of it. He just wears normal Earth clothes.
Never been a fan of GT Vegeta. Never been a fan.
Clear that he's become more of
I don't even care if Toriyama designed it. Never been a fan.
He even has a mustache which he shaves off because his daughter didn't like it. This is exactly what Vegeta should be wearing, a natural progression for him. Even if Super really wanted him to wear clothes more fit for battle, they should have at least given him something that looks more like his Buu Saga outfit. Bulma's design is also pretty whack. She cares so much about her looks throughout the whole show that you'd think she would act like in C, where she switched up her outfit and hair like every other day. I can definitely buy this look from GT Bulma. She's gotten older and has sort of stopped caring as much, but I do still wish her ever-changing styles was something that was continued in both shows. Comparing the Trunks designs is kind of pointless as their age are also different, but I do have some thoughts. I'm kind of indifferent on the GT Trunks design, but I will say that it's a shame that they got rid of this absolutely dripped up vest thingy that they gave him at the end of C. Like, man, this is some shit that only Toriyama could make, and we will never have designs like this in Dragon Ball ever again. But what is really bizarre is future Trunks' hair in Super. They made it blue. Why? I mean, there is a reason for why, but the reason just makes it even weirder. You see, both Trunks and Bulma originally have purple hair in the manga, except for a few instances, mainly in chapter 1 where Bulma has blue hair. And for the anime, they chose to have Bulma's blue hair, but to keep Trunks' hair purple. So in a sense, this creates kind of a minor inconsistency, like how does black and blue make purple? So an easy fix for this would have been to just change Bulma's hair to purple in Super if they saw this as an issue. That way they would have had the same hair color and it would be manga accurate. But instead they made future Trunks' hair blue. Like, I get that Bulma's blue hair is iconic, but so
super
is Trunks'
iconic.
purple hair. And you know, I would have been fine with this if they gave it like an actual in-universe reason for the change. Like, when I watched his first appearance in Super way back, I just figured he dyed in blue to like honor his mom or something. I thought it was actually kind of wholesome, but no, it's just a retcon of a hair color, which they for some reason didn't want to do with the kid Trunks. He still has pink hair, but then the superhero movie comes out and he has blue hair. Like, can we please just make a decision and stick with it? Now, I didn't really expect to talk about Trunks' hair so much, but just to make it even longer, we're doing the Trunks and Bulma hair color tier list.
While he do that, we're gonna
like the normal purple, pink
when we
hair
get back to
we come back. Trunks in general,
and we're back.
The GT designs just work better
after he talked about their hair.
To do different things. GT never tries to give Gohan the most dripless, sauceless, garbage-ass tracksuit and haircut. They're just really good depictions of these characters growing older. 18 looks like a very normal mother in GT, and I think it works really well. I can appreciate them keeping her iconic hair in Super, but man, are all her outfits so sauceless. This is the most plain, generic sets of clothes you could find. What's worse is her Tournament of Power fit, where they just give her some basic-ass tracksuit.
I don't know if I want to look stylish fighting in a tournament, but that's just me. I don't know. I don't know. I might rock a tracksuit if I'm in a tournament. I might rock a tracksuit. It's flexible.
What's up with Dragon Ball Super and tracksuit? And again, this is a character that loves clothes. That was one of her main character traits. She started a genocide in the future and destroyed everything aside from the clothing stores. How on earth does that say?
You know what's interesting? He's talking about 17, but he's talking about 18. But yeah, 17 looked really good. I liked his Ranger form.
Super regresses Krillin's design, giving him back his bald head and making him look younger. On the other hand, I love what they did with him in GT. One of my favorite scenes in GT, if not my favorite, is Goku.
I do think GT's ending was really phenomenal.
Their character designs tells us so much about them. Goku is looking as young as ever, stronger than ever, but Krillin looks like an old man. These two people who once were equal in strength are now so different because of the choices they've taken in life. Goku used every moment and opportunity to get stronger. Fighting and training is what makes him happy, whereas Krillin stepped back and gave up on fighting to care for his family. He gets no second chance to rejoin the fighting and reach Goku's strength, as he missed that chance years ago. Now, I have nothing against a franchise going in a new direction or trying new things, because if you do the same things over and over, it just kind of gets a bit stale after a while. But to me,
I think that's always been kind of my issue with Gohan's character.
It feels like it's trying to do exactly what Dragon Ball Z did, but failing to understand what made Z work in the first place. And in no way am I making this video to say that Dragon Ball GT is perfect, or even that it has a perfect understanding of Dragon Ball, because it definitely doesn't. It has inconsistencies too, like how characters are able to sense the android's ki, even though androids don't have ki, or the way certain beam attacks should be doing way more damage than they do. And sometimes Super shows moments of deep understanding, like Goku mimicking his fight with his grandfather. Something I don't really think either show does right are the fights. They both have good fights for sure, but none of them quite managed to interweave the story into them like Toriyama did so well, and have more of a focus on the action itself. What I will say is that GT has a lot more violence, and attacks actually feel like they do damage.
Well, that was probably just because of the time slot that GT is in compared to Super, but yeah, it's not really that big of a deal.
Very gory, and blood is everywhere, just like Dragon Ball always had, while Super doesn't really get worse than this. Ultimately, neither series is going to be perfect, because none of them were created by Toriyama himself. Many people don't think parts of the original felt like Dragon Ball either, so at the end of the day, it's all up to what you prefer. But what I can really respect GT for is trying. Living up to Dragon Ball is a huge task, and regardless of the end result, I can tell they tried the best to honor Akira Toriyama's work. Despite Dragon Ball being one of my favorite stories, this is my first video on it, but make sure to check out one of these videos if you want to hear my thoughts on similar anime.
So, for me, I really did enjoy the video. I can see a lot of his points, and honestly, I don't really think there's a right or wrong answer, because right now we have two properties that one Toriyama has his hand in both properties, but obviously a lot more in Super than he did in GT. But obviously this is really one of the situations of what you just prefer, because you can obviously tell that GT was trying to go off of nostalgia, but then end up kind of realizing nostalgia really wasn't carrying it that much and kind of went in their own direction. Whereas Super, on the other hand, I don't want to say feels like a giant cash grab, because I don't feel that that's what it is, but you can almost feel like that's what it is sometimes. It's like, hey, this is just a giant marketing tool to sell toys, just to sell shit. You know, because sometimes like you really do feel as though some of these arcs they don't really put in a lot of effort into a lot of this stuff. And I can understand that you can say, well, Toriyama, you know, he kind of gave an outline. He kind of gave an outline for a lot of these arcs, and that's what they was going off of. But at the same time, no, you should really want if you get an arc from Toriyama and he just give you the roughest of rough drafts, you should want to approve upon that. And sometimes I feel as though with Super, they didn't want to approve upon it. They just wanted to go, all right, this is what the arc is. Let's just hurry up, have some really good fights, and call it a day. Sometimes the animation was a little bit wonky when it comes to Super, and I think GT really didn't really suffer from that too much. Was a lot of the inconsistencies in the animation, like Super did. But for me, I just think if we're going arc by arc, I just think I've always kind of enjoyed Super more as an overall story. And I don't really think there's anything wrong with you being a fan of one versus the other. Even though one isn't canon, you can clearly see with Daima right now, they're trying to bridge that. They're trying to really kind of bridge that gap of the separation that GT has always had to the main story of Dragon Ball. So for me, it's really one of those situations to where if you enjoy GT, that's cool. If you enjoy Super, that's cool. For me, I feel as though one doesn't over trump the other. I think they both have major issues. But for me, I really did enjoy the video. Just let me know what you guys think.